we all.
Sorry, what? Should I start, Bijit? You were saying something?
Yeah, we can start now.
Okay. Hello, friends. Welcome to the 30 States webinar. I'm Urvashi, and with me is our co-founder, Rashmi.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining
Okay.
us today.
So India's first 2 medals at the Tokyo Olympics have come courtesy sports persons, or more specifically sportswomen from the Northeast. By winning a silver medal and assuring us at least a bronze medal, Mirabai Chanu of Manipur and Vavlina Borgohain from Assam have made us all proud of their huge achievement. And that also sets the tone for our webinar, which is focused on a resurgent Northeast. The land of the Seven Sisters is blessed with natural beauty, a rich and diverse cultural heritage, and huge potential. Tourism, organic and natural farming, and food processing are some of the industries that have scope for fast growth in the region. While topography, distance, lack of infrastructure, and lack of awareness have bogged down efforts in the past, a generation of young entrepreneurs from the Northeast are successfully changing all that. To discuss these issues, we have 3 successful entrepreneurs who will share their experiences with us. Tage Rita from Arunachal Pradesh is Chief Managing Director of Lambu Subu Food and Beverages. She has set up India's first organic kiwi winery, and the wine is sold under the brand name Nara Abba. Ms. Tage has a degree in agricultural engineering. She worked for several years in the PWD department of the Arunachal government before quitting her job and pursuing her dream of making wine. Her winery has brought back to the orchards 300 farmers who had given up farming due to the lack of market linkages. She has won numerous awards for her efforts, including the Women Transforming India Award instituted by the Niti Aayog in collaboration with the United Nations. Samir Bordola is an agri-entrepreneur from Assam. Samir practices zero-cost organic farming and has trained over 5,000 young green commandos to take forward his mission. Together, they have trained thousands of farmers to carry out organic and natural farming without fertilizers and pesticides, which make farming expensive and degrade the soil. Instead, Samir advocates creation of edible food forests using traditional food wisdom. Samir is an Ashoka Fellow and has received several awards, including the IARI Most Innovative Farmer of the Country Award in 2019 and the Best Agripreneur of the Country Award in 2017. Bijit Basumatari is founder of the Chakrashila Tea Garden, which produces one of the finest organic teas in Assam. Bijit started his organic plantation in 2007 in 1 acre of land that has now grown to 114 acres. He has also set up a unit to process organic tea. Today, he exports to Canada and Australia, besides selling his produce to other brands. All the 3 are working with the mission to provide livelihood opportunities to rural households, ensure suitable development, and have made a mark through their organic products. So let's hear from them.
Urvashi,
Yeah.
I just want to clarify, Rita worked in the Rural Works Department of Arunachal government, not PWD.
All right. Rural Works Department, sorry for that. So Rita, I'll come to you first. If you can just tell us that, how did the idea come to you for setting up your enterprise?
Hello, good evening, and very good evening, Urvi. Thanks for
good evening,
such
madam.
Introduction for all of us. So this idea of making kiwi wine like working, and while working in the department, and along with that, I was quite in my work, like if not in the office, at home also quite busy handling the small children. But then the idea struck us, me and my husband, because like we loved wine. We love wine, and then very often he would bring some exotic wines, and then we would toss it during a dinner like that. So while having conversation on ideas for wine and winery, it came out. But then I was actually quite reluctant in the beginning, because I studied about winemaking during my college days, BTech BTech second year, we studied about winemaking in a subject called food processing. So we studied about big tanks, big these oak barrels like that, and how the operations, cleaning and handling the fruit, and so many procedures were there. So that appeared to be very tedious, and a lot of physical effort had to be there. So then when initially we my husband suggested that we should have a winery. We have lots of exotic foods out here, but I was the one who actually opposed the idea. But then then gradually I started thinking, I think, yeah, like, I mean, it's okay to, have a winery or start a winery if we have like a sufficient quantity of fruits, but which fruit are we going to do? So that is how I started researching, like how, which fruit are we going to choose? And then what are the socioeconomic impact that we are going to see if at all we start a winery? So that was one very important thing, because we never cross, we never interfere into each other's work. So we, separately having our own work. So we were busy there like that. But then when this, idea struck, so I had to really, because we would not be able to, do it at one go or all alone. So it required, a lot of many things in terms of resource, in terms of ideas, knowledge, hard work, and all that. So that's why it took us quite some time. So we started with, when I went to do the, the socioeconomic research, and I found quite a lot of, it was very clear that I had to, if I consume all the fruits in the valley, like the kiwi fruits were rotting on the ground. I saw the, just mountain of fruits on the ground. So and then it was just lying on the stream. It was smelling bad like that. So that kind of situation when I saw, then, yeah, I'm putting up the video. So that situation when I saw, like, then I said, like, we are, we are consuming the fruits in such huge quantity. And see, again, winery is a very labor intensive kind of work. So a lot of people are going to be employed or get a livelihood opportunity, starting from the farm, then in the orchard, then in, then in the factory itself. Even in a factory, a lot of manual work is there. Then thereafter we will need skilled manpower, all that. I did research. And then again, we are just encouraging, by making a wine, we are just encouraging farming. And then again, we are going into organic farming. At that time when I was just starting, I saw some signboards of Mission Organic like that. So when I read that, signboard was all tattered, and then garden was in bushes, then I asked the farmers, like, how is the organic thing going on? What do you do? Then they were all lost. They said, okay, it's just a signboard. We are not given training. We don't know what is organic. So, but of course, we don't use any kind of fertilizer, nothing. But then, like, there's no proper instructions. Then how we are going to achieve the certification? They were all very, things were very hazy at that time. So they were, at lost. So that time, like, this one, I also started, meet this one, informing, the authority, wherever I was, like, I got an opportunity to say something on my own. So I started talking about helping the farmers, supporting them, hand holding them, and also this organic mission has to be complete, because we have to go for organic certification. So that is how we started gradually interacting with the farmers, then bringing the fruits. And then right now I take in charge of the operations. So I look after, interacting with the farmers, then the garden, then processing the fruit in the winery. So this is what my role is. So there, then I became, very fully involve myself. So that is how, the work started, the idea struck. And then another thing was, what motivated me was, like, there was a very good policy called Arunachal Pradesh state wine policy, which was made in 2015. So that policy very clearly states about how entrepreneurs are going to be supported by the government. like, in facilitating, maybe, I mean, in all terms, like the regulations, the kind of rules that we have to follow and all that. It was a very friendly policy, seemed to be very easy when I first read. So then I said, all right, chalo, even if we don't have money, I think, like if the government is supportive, then we must be, like, I mean, with this policy, and we can go to, any bank and approach with a project. And I think, bank would be easily convinced with this, with this good policy like that. No, so then that's how we started. Then we approached for a bank loan, and then the bank was convinced enough. They immediately gave us, and then we started, bringing.
Okay.
So that
All right. So, Samir, if you can just tell us, why did you, leave your job and take to farming?
I
How
think
was your journey?
somebody needs to, somebody,
yeah, they have to.
there's
So
somebody-
yes, like, see, and these
So-
are, so
Rita, can you hear me? I think.
yeah, I can hear you. So what was the question, Urvashi?
No, so I was just saying that I'll just go to Samir now. We'll just hear from him. Then I'll come back to you.
Okay.
I'll just bring them into the conversation. So Samir, if you can tell us
Okay.
about your journey, how it was.
Yeah. First of all, good evening, everyone. I'm so honored to be here, speaking in front of. I see many friends also in the participants, and thank you, Urvashi, and thank you, Rasmi. Thank you, 30 States, for this platform where we can speak about how we are doing our work here in this very beautiful part of the country, the Northeast India. So you asked me how I left the job and why I did opt to become a farmer. So it's a long journey, we'll say, actually, and it's like I think whatever I'm doing now has evolved together. When it's a process of, there were lots of roller coaster rides also, and after that you go through and you reach a place where you realize that you have unlearned many things to learn many new things, which this is a process where I went through unlearning and also learning together. So I studied agriculture, and after that I was doing a job in a corporate, and I was working for the corporate in the agricultural sector itself. But suddenly, when I was working, I found that I was promoting some agrochemicals and pesticides and fertilizers in the small tea growing areas of Assam. And Assam, the tea is a very monocrop. And then when I was doing that, somewhere I realized that I am putting so much of cocktails of toxins into the life of my own people. Like a monocrop dependent. Suppose if there was a big garden, so they have got certain rules and certain, like they have a plan. We are going to spray this kind of chemicals only for the insects and all. But when it came to small tea growers and people opening tea gardens all over the villages in Upper Assam, and in many parts of Arunachal and other northeastern states. So what happened, like people started using chemicals, herbicides, fungicides. So the villages became cocktails of chemicals. So that was a realization which came to my mind, and I was not interested in doing that. And plus, I led a life where I was more interested in freelancing, right? How I can experience myself. And I love from my childhood, I grew up in Arunachal. And I love to take risk in life. So adventurous life, risky life and all. So I opted to leave the job, and I started my agri clinic. I thought the animals also have doctors, humans have doctor. Why not the plants should have a doctor? Because I have studied agriculture. So I started the first plant health clinic in my hometown, Jorhat. And from there, when I started this, and I just interacted with my farmers, because to the clinic at that time, nobody comes to write a prescription for a plant to take care of. So I had a 2-stroke bike, and I started going to the villages and working with the farmers. Then I knew that my theoretical knowledge from the university and the practical knowledge of the farmers is a vast difference. I had scientific knowledge, but they had practical knowledge. So I became a backpacker, and I started moving around in the villages. And then I could realize that food is the biggest industry, but why the farmer child don't want to be a farmer? Why, when we talk about farming, why it is seen as a profession which is not so good? Why people don't dream to become a farmer? So that was something which was eating my head. And I thought, and on the process when I told you this evolved, the whole thing evolved. So on the process when I was working with my rural young people in the villages, slowly I had a group of young people and all of us were enjoying doing this, which we transformed into organic cultivation because I thought that I have come out of that process of promoting agrochemicals to the monocrop, and I saw the whole environment and the people. So I started getting knowledge from the farmers. I traveled the whole country. I went to Vidar to see the cotton farmers' plights. I went to Punjab to look at how so big Punjabi farmers commit suicide and how villages like Vatinda and all are all on sale to the ICICI Bank because it is mortgaged. So this all experiences I gathered and I returned to my place and I saw this is a place where things grow naturally. When you just throw some seeds in the forest, also it is growing up. So that's how the whole process of my form of farming, which I call compassionate farming now, or Karunamai Kheti in Hindi, where I grow food inside the forest, it came forward. And I think I was more independent now to answer your question specifically. I wanted to be more independent. I wanted to make my young people of Northeast custodian of the resources. I thought there is a need of a movement for the food conspiracy which I smell, where I see the control of the seed by the corporates lead to the control of the whole value chain, where farmers are always dependent on some inputs, external inputs, and they'll end up making no profit, so their children don't want to be farmers. So how I cannot go to the streets and do Jindabad against the hybrids and the genetically modified seed. But I took the other way. So much of revolutions went through in the Northeast. Why not an economic revolution led by the young people? So I devised this Green Commandos concept, sensitized and I just glamorized the profession of farming, bring them to farm campings, created food forests. And I'm more happy than having a job and doing a stereotypic 9 to 5 job, listening to my boss and implementing those policies which my farmers cannot absorb. So now I have got the power to grow with the inherent quality of the region, inherent absorption capacity of the farmers, and create some beautiful products which we are doing with 565 Green Commandos now. So I think
There's this nice term that you use, glamorize farming. That's nice.
We like everything glamorous.
Yes. So, okay. Vijit, if I can come to you now, if you could share your journey with us, how did you start? You can hear me?
Vijit, you need to unmute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good evening, madams, to you all, and especially madam from Arunachal. And Bodolese, I've been hearing your name. I have seen your works in Facebook and all that. But my background is totally different with Bodolese and madam from Arunachal and all that. Like my place is very much backward area. After completion of my graduation, there was a lot of trouble in our area also because of our community had been demanding both separate Bodolan at that time. There was a lot of troublesome. Anyway, and after getting graduation, I thought of doing the job, but in the meantime, I'm not married to a student. At the same time, not so low, but in between, middle in studies and all that. So I cannot go up or I cannot go down. So to get government jobs and all that, by the time, unless and until we have some family background, good background or supportive and all that, there's no possible to get job and provide something and sums and amount and all that to somebody else. There's no possible to get job. So I thought of that instead of going job, I think I must be independent. Whatever the little amount of money that I have, I better invest myself and do something else. So by thinking that, I thought that tea can be done in a small way, and organic tea can be done. By that way, I got in the newspapers that somebody is doing organic tea in Upper Assam. And after getting the news and all that, I tried to contact those people, and I got the contacts and all that. Accordingly, I joined the training and all that. And after getting training, I started plantation of organic tea. But by the time I had no knowledge how to maintain this, how to maintain the soil and all that, and how to control pests organically. But from my friend circle, I got those knowledge, and so accordingly, I did it. And of course, during the time of this process, doing plantations and all that, there was a thought that if I do the tea plantation, and if I sell the leaf to the others, then I may not be realized to get the price of the organic value. So there is another problem of putting a small processing unit. So for that, also
If I can
Yeah.
just interrupt you, your audio is not very clear.
audio is not clear. No,
Difficult to
actually, I'm
understand
a
you.
bit, yeah, I am a bit inside the house. Okay, that is a
Maybe
hello.
if you can
Yeah.
move a little closer to the.
Yeah, you can move a little closer to the phone.
Now, can you hear me, madam?
No,
Yeah.
if you move a little
Hello.
closer to the mic.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes,
I
we can.
I can hear very nicely.
Okay.
Okay. So, after plantation of the organic tea, there are also challenges for putting up a small factory. So for that, I tried to contact other people how they are doing, and accordingly, I came to know some ideas from my friends, and started the putting up a small factory. There, I myself and my wife together, we uh, maintained the tea garden, and along with the maintenance of tea garden, we started producing of the tea and all that. And luckily, by the time, there is one NGO who had come from Canada. The lady, it's called Betty Carswell. She was helping us that how to maintain the soil in terms of knowledge, I mean, and in terms of marketing, she tried to bring some people from Canada, and from Canada, some buyers came and contacted with us, and accordingly, we started selling the tea to Canada.
Okay.
So that is
It
how
trained
we
you in
started.
organic farming, is it? For organic?
Yeah,
Okay.
organic farming.
Then, right.
And according like that, we started the production and selling the tea. And at the same time, we got a certification from this one, Indosat and all that. So like that, we have started.
So he's saying basically he received a big help from Perry from Canada. She's part of an NGO
Yeah.
that helped him provide a good
Yeah.
market for tea.
Yeah.
I think the right linkages are very important. Like Rita was saying, that government scheme was there for setting up wineries.
Yes.
Right,
Some
Rita?
support.
So that awareness about the schemes which are available or NGOs which are helping, that is very important to begin with.
I think
Actually, in Assam, there is no awareness program from government side. Only NGOs only they have started.
Okay.
Like Borderline, he said about the organic, the small tea growers using huge amount of chemical pesticides and creating some havoc. So by the time that NGO came off, and they had seen accordingly, and they propagate the organic cultivation. I mean.
Okay. So Rita, I'd like to ask you about the challenges that you faced and how you overcame them. There must have been several maybe problems that you had to deal with when you started.
Yes.
Please unmute yourself. Rita, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
now we can hear you.
Okay, now you can. So a lot of challenges I faced on the way to making this winery. As I was telling first, like what motivated me, one factor of me taking up this entrepreneurship and then putting up a winery was because there was a very good wine policy framed by the government. It was named as the Arunachal Pradesh State Wine Policy 2015. It was made by the then agriculture minister in 2015. But then this policy itself became a bottleneck for me. How? Because the bureaucrats and the officers did not want to implement it. So this was one big obstacle I was having. I had to complain everywhere, and I had to, write applications, complaints, whatever. And I even went to the extent of, telling my grievances to Niti Aayog, because I was awarded by Niti Aayog, as you mentioned it, in collaboration with United Nations. So one good thing is like they keep this Niti Aayog through web women entrepreneurship platform. They keep following the awardees and they keep asking what are the problems anything help us. So, and then even there I wrote like
Rita, 1 second. Vijit, yeah, he's muted. Okay. All right, please continue.
So then, I wrote to them, like, the policy is not implemented and it's very difficult for me to go forward, to move forward in my work. That is how I told them. And then I wrote to Honorable CM. I wrote to the Honorable CM, then, to the Horticulture, Agriculture Minister, like that. So I went from place to place, like, telling my story, like how the policy motivated, but then it's not implemented, how I struggled. So later now, I think after 2-3 years of my so much of consistent effort, and then my writings like that, so now it's in place, I can say that. So this is how I overcame. And then I would say like patience, as I said, like this is something which we all need to have. But then like I think we all have to be very vocal about our problems. We should not be, we should not be afraid of saying something, like especially like here what I see are people like they are scared कि वो तो minister है, वो MLA है, उसके against में कुछ बोल देगा, या वो officer के against में कुछ बोल देगा, वो बड़ा officer है, next time हमारा file movement नहीं होगा, वो ऐसा बोलेगा, वैसे बोलेगा. So this type of fear, this has to be overcome. I mean, we have to be vocal. This is what I say, like you have to be vocal and you have to strike the right note, and you have to meet people. And sometimes we even do not know कि किसको क्या बात करें, because you are sometimes so shattered by the system. So this is what I can say. I face severe problem in my work, and then you do not know where to go. That is how you just cry, why this is happening. This is how, because the bottleneck that comes is something which totally hampers your work. So then that is one thing. That apart, see, on daily basis, like me being a first generation entrepreneur and being a farmer's daughter, I'm a farmer's daughter. My father himself is a farmer, and he worked very hard on the farm to give me, give me a good education. So then like, so with this, you have no one to, look up to and tell your problem, share your problem. Then you yourself solving it on your own. So this is what I face. Then at that time, I think we should not give up. So you need to have patience, and then you need to meet the right people. And apart from that, I think there are also like, I think we need to have that constant self-motivation kind of thing. You'll have to keep working, and then you have to remind yourself that what is your goal, where do you want to reach. So you have to look beyond the challenges and the obstacles that are there in front of you. Then only I think you can you can work every day. You smile
Yes.
and you continue your
But
work.
was the government responsive when you made complaints? Did they act on your complaints?
Yes, it did. It was not a very immediate kind of thing, but then they did respond. I would say, like, the present government, I think, is very strong towards, I think it's very clear on, being very transparent and being, supportive towards the startups, and especially
Okay.
women entrepreneurs. Like, I keep hearing, they do try to reach out to the entrepreneurs, the women entrepreneurs, and they do help. This is what I can say. But the thing is, like, see, sometimes it happens in the system. You don't have all the good people. You don't have everyone who has the full knowledge, and everyone who is, who understands the government's stand, because
Yes.
government makes, they make, they decide good things, but then they like, sometimes, as I said, like, I was falling victim to the system itself. The rules and regulations, policy was there already, but then people who are given the power to look after, to implement, they did not know how to do it. No, this is what, the mistake was there. And then government, I see that, they try to reach out to the people on the ground. They try to this I see many things which they directly want to reach out to the person on the ground, not going by, different offices and different,
For a change,
people
that
like
there
that.
is
So
some positive movement from the government.
yes, I
That's
see
yes.
that there is so much hope, there's so
All
much hope. And then, yeah.
All right. I'd just like to ask Samir, what has your experience been?
Yeah, when you like, there were lots of challenges because I was experimenting lots of new things which we are doing actually. So, like Rita said, we are all first generation agripreneurs or entrepreneurs, and first challenge is like leaving a job and opting for entrepreneurship. Even in the family, it's so difficult to make them understand that you are leaving a job and you're going for starting something where there is no insecurity. I think lots of young entrepreneurs also face this challenge. Another challenge which I faced is also like we are into business, but we have so little knowledge about finance. So financial literacy is something which is very important, where we have to know that how you manage your finance and all. And as my work gradually landed up in my concept, which is called native people, native food, and native economy. And that time when people were talking about more quantity than quality. So it was a big challenge for me, like lots of people in the research, lots of people in the government policies, they will be thinking that, okay, why you are going to a negative development, why you are asking a person to grow a local rice variety, they're not opting for a hybrid variety. And even for the farmers, like the subsidized things given with the hybrids, and then all kind of high production technology, but no importance being given to the very beautiful local food wisdom of the place, which also creates a market identity. I realized that. But for my farmers, it is like, okay, subsidy to humko mil raha hai hybrids mein. So that those are the challenges where like you have to convince the farmer. Another thing which was a big challenge for me is like I was very much concerned about the rural to urban migration of the young people in the villages when I was working in the villages. Then how to keep them in the villages because they were not attracted to farming. So it was a big challenge how wherever I'm working now, whatever scale of work I'm doing, but at that place also how I have to create this into such a beautiful thing that so they are attracted to that. So that was a big challenge how you do this. So I devised a program called Attracting Students to Agripreneurship. I was talking to the parents, and parents would never change because they have got the habit of going to subsidized things, or they have got the habit, okay, we have to put fertilizers in the farm and all. So I started working with the rural school children in this program called Attracting Students to Agripreneurship. And the students, class 6, 7, 8 students, I worked in more than 150 schools all over Assam. And they were so beautifully understanding the thing, and they were practicing, creating their own food forest for the midday meal. They were growing herbs and all. And that made those children become a very good extension tool for the parents to understand what I'm doing now. So there was a big challenge how to attract the people there. Yeah, I went to the research, and another big challenge is I'm working to conserve, consume, and commercialize the local food wisdom. How we grow with this, how we become a part in the big wellness food industry, which is growing every day. So how we become a stakeholder there. So I was working on that. But when I come to the local food products, even the research institutes, there is a very big challenge for me. There are no research on that. For example, the universities have package of practice, which is the whole cultivation practice for a dragon fruit or an avocado, for an exotic lettuce or celery. But the universities do not have package of practice for a very local fruit called like Indian coffee plum. We call it ponial. And it gives me 500 rupees kg in the international market. But I don't get a package of practice for that. I know Visit and me is connected together through this lady called Peggy Kurzweil, who also changed my whole life, looking at how organics should go with our own resources. When Peggy and me were like moving around in the universities, trying to get help, so there were no research. They were talking about, okay, don't confuse, farmers cannot go organic, the production will come down. But now what is happening is, I find the small virus has made people understand that the local food wisdom is the immunity building food, and we farmers are the future healers. Doctors can give you medicines. Medicines will go to resistance, but food is something which you will keep you very strong. So but when I started and I was working there that time, Urvashi, it was a like big challenge because people also gave me allegations that you are talking about negative development. And those people are only now working with me, and then they are coming forward. And another thing is, for this kind of work, when I talk about conserving a local seed, when I talk about making a local food item, so they don't say it's scale up. So policymakers, for the government policymakers, it is not scalable. It is not scalable. It will not make an impact. So they have to go with, no, we have to bring out some crops which is very like the research is suggesting, okay, we have to go for more high production systems. We have to go. I look at creating a food forest where the food water is conserved, or in our hills. In Northeast, we are sandwiched between two big challenges. One is flood when it is rain, and it is drought in our hills when it is in the winters. So we are sandwiched between that. But creating a food forest, so much of water is conserved, how the plants, different height of plants, check the evaporation, runoff is lost. But if I tell that banana plantation and bamboo plantation in the food forest, or not removing the weeds from the forest and grow food like that by throwing seed bombs, this for the researchers and the scientists who have done so much of research on all the green revolution technologies and everything, for them it's a very big thing to digest. So it was, I see that challenges are there, but we have to find out solutions within the resources we have. So we started creating those models, small models, and now it is becoming positive because lots of research organizations, lots of government organizations are also coming forward and looking at our model, how we can go forward. But yeah, we are late because wellness food industry today is $500 billion, and that demands most of our local crops, which we never try to grow. We always try to introduce something where you can sell everything to me as a farmer, from the seed to the sapling to the fertilizers to everything, the irrigation system to the tractors. But you never thought about how I grow with the local rice. Black rice of Manipur gives an international identity. Red rice of Assam gives an international identity. My Centellia asiatica, a small herb which grows like jungle wheat, it gives an identity in the wellness food industry, immunity food industry. So we never grow with that. That was the biggest challenge, to make people convinced that local food are going to be the future. Where we can sustain our whatever.
I think it's like, you know what you said, you had to sensitize the farmers, also the bureaucracy probably, because you know they also need to be educated on some things.
Yeah, that's what I was talking, Urvashi, because it is both way. I was in a place where I have to convince the farmers. I took the route from the children, like how we go through that, and also the researchers and the policymakers to think about. So we have to create model. We created model, and then we try to advocate it. Still now, you sitting in Delhi know about my work. I know, but ministers in my state doesn't know what this guy is doing inside the forest.
Yes.
Because it is not something. If I would have grown some avocados or dragon fruits or big like hydroponic unit where I buy everything, so it would have been all media to everything would have taken me somewhere. But I am growing inside the forest some very local crops, which now people don't see any interest on that. But I know that they are the future commodities for the farmers to grow up.
That's a very valid point. So, Bijit, if I can come to you now, how would you say how easy or difficult was your journey when you started? Do you agree with what Rita and Samir have said?
Actually, I myself started with a very small one because I had no concept of the organic and all that. So I mentioned about one NGO. This is Partridge Ground, and that was run by still running by this Peggy Carswell. So always we remember her because she also didn't have idea about the organic over here, but she used to collect the ideas from within India. And at the same time, my background is farmer's background. So I have been involved with my parents, especially in terms of cultivating paddy, vegetables, and putting the soil fertile and all that. That idea was with me actually. And after learning from that NGOs, and at the same time we have some inherent ideas to go for organic because, especially I would say in areas much of the chemical were not used till now. I mean, so that idea gave me, and challenges in terms of that because I started a small one. There was a problem for money and all that. And for putting up a small unit of processing unit, I got the help from Northeastern Development Finance Corporation. Because that is especially for Northeast. And I got the finance from there, and interest amount is very low. And at the same time, I got a market for that NGO because I'm producing in a small way. The idea is that because organic concept is quite new and we don't have much of knowledge that is why I have started a small way. But in that case, I got some encourages from the local people and all that. So some of the tea it goes to Canada and some of the teas and I used to sell in the local area and they are encouraging actually. So I didn't get much of challenges in terms of promoting organic, but along with that, I tried to encourage the people and form what is called organic small tea growers of Northeast India. So along with the platform, we started organizing for organic tea cultivation like Arunachal, Nagaland, and Tripura, and within the Assams and all that. So people started coming up, and along with the plantation, along with the conversion of the tea to organic, people started producing like handmade green tea, handmade orthodox tea. Now it is coming up, I mean. But at the same time, I myself I'm producing with a small one now. I'm assuming I'm getting a better market. But some of our friends, they're not still not able to get that market. I mean, that is why that is also challenges for us.
I think,
So
Vijit, one reason why you could really do it was because you set up your own processing unit. And I think that is where most of the small farmers face challenges. They are not able to process tea.
That, that also challenges. At the same time, the farmers, whenever they have to do their own, they have to be in the garden, they have to be in the processing unit. They are something like a Malik, what is called. They are at the same time labor. They are at the same time manager. So the marketing strategy is something huge, different with production of product manufacturing and all that. And we farmers are not able to access our product to the not able to expose our product to the market level. that is a big challenge. I mean, if anybody like NGOs or somebody who are interested to buy the organic tea and sell to the market, if things are happening like that, I think I believe that most of the farmers will convert to organic. As again, I need to mention Mr. Baudelaire. He said that there was scrupulous uses of chemicals by small growers that will reduce. I mean, so I would like to request through this discussion, especially Rosmiji, that if you have some networks in terms of helping the farmers, you try to convince them, tell them that how farmers are doing here, and make us to expose and sell our product to the market. I mean.
Sure. I think, Bijit, it begins with the on-farm processing. This is one big thing we have seen throughout our story coverage and interaction with farmers. Unless you start processing your produce on the farm, you will always be dependent on others. Losses will be very high, and you'll be at the mercy of middlemen. So if at all, you people can also form cooperatives for processing tea. Maybe your plant can process tea from nearby small farmers. I think that is one way to go about it. You know, cooperative for on-farm processing, and this is not only for tea. I think it applies to all the produce. Samir, you have anything to say on this?
Also, Samir, I'd just like to ask one thing. That saying that in your interactions with government officials also, do they not interact with you or take feedback from you?
Yeah, actually what is happening is actually I was also too much involved inside the villages creating those small models, because I just wanted to convince them with some models which we have created. And yeah, the lots of like government organizations are also coming forward who are, we have our farm learning center now. We have got this whole compassionate farming training module. We have this Green Commandos program from the young. So lots of government organizations are also coming forward now to make more Green Commandos trained, and also supporting us in like with NABARD, we are now working on zero budget natural farming in a very peri-urban villages near Guwahati. So they are also coming up, and we are speaking to them. And taking from Rasmi, it's very important that we have to learn about how we process things in our villages itself. If you look at the topography of our villages in the Northeast, like it's most of, I work with very small, marginal and tribal farmers, and through my Green Commandos. So what is the problem is, like if the processing unit is somewhere in a distant place, even from the village to carry the things to the processing unit is very difficult. So what we are doing, I'll just give you an example. Like when I started this concept of food forest, so I adopted a village near my farm, which is only 45 kilometers even from the Guwahati city, but the roads were so bad. So we went to the village and we started growing one crop called roselle. Hibiscus. It is Hibiscus subderifa. So it was not like introduced. They used to grow it in their Jhum cultivation. Another thing why I started, another challenge which I was facing was like the burn and slash method of farming in our hill farmers. So how they burn the forest every time to do the farming. Earlier when the ancestors did it, it was good, 10 years, but now every year they do that. So I introduced this concept of food forest where we evaluate the forest by adding some seeds of very high value and low volume food crops, which can be manufactured in the village itself. So we selected roselle for this. We threw seeds in the jungle of the roselle seeds with all women farmers, and it grew very beautifully. And then we collected the petals of that, and then we sun-dried it and made it into a herbal drink, which is very pink in color. You can have just 5 grams of the leaf, dry leaf, and just make a cup of a very hot beverage, which can help you in even slimming, right? It has got some properties of slimming. So we just and lots of other medicinal properties are there, and even it is tasty. When you chill it down, it becomes a pink juice. So we just started doing this. In their own dialect, they call it the crop Hansaram. So we branded it as Hansaram, and we made a story of this whole process. How these ladies climb the hills, they make a food forest of this rosal, and then this story sells, and the product become a very high value product. So now we are selling 200 rupees for 50 grams, where the farmers are getting now 3,000 rupees a kg for a product which they didn't even imagine, okay, this can be. So this is the way where we can show that, okay, you will go dragon fruits, your horticulture scheme is coming with dragon fruits, you are getting free sample of dragon fruits, but you don't know where to market it. You don't know how to grow it. You have to learn it. It is something where you have got so much of inherent qualities with some crops like the bamboo. Now we are making bamboo leaf into bamboo leaf tea, and it sells at 5,000 rupees a kg in Guwahati city. So that is how, and there is no rocket technique in that. You just have to cut the bamboo leaf into pieces, sun dry it. The women can do it, and this becomes a very beautiful story. And that story, social media is so strong now. Just we put a Facebook page of that or an Instagram post of that, and we are connected to the market. Rosal, we started last year, and already we have more than 3,000 kg order for the next season. For the whole.
Samir, you know, if like, how do you think where the government can step in? Because when we talk of scaling up, what you're doing, if you wanted a larger number of farmers, this to reach a larger number of farmers, what should be done for that?
In the Northeast, I think it has to be establishment of community enterprises where people come together, micro processing units, like how you can just standardize the way of processing and growing it, and then make into lots of micro processing units in different villages, different women groups or different farmer groups, like cooperatives of the farmers producers companies, which the NABARD is starting. But I feel the Thailand model of community enterprises by women group, how they make jasmine rice into so beautiful product, how they are, and it's very important that with agriculture, we have to add some services. And those services which we are doing in our villages is the agro-tourism or the farm tourism or the food tourism. So we have to blend it together and create small enterprises and take it forward. For example, if you talk about like we have got so much of beautiful garments made in the villages. Our women farmers are very good weavers. So it's not giving them a power loom or something where they cannot run it or make it into a big thing, but every woman, how they spend, apart from doing all the household activities and taking care of babies, 1 hour of their loom, and they are making something called the eri. And from the eri, which is ahimsa silk, which is organic, which is healing cloth, and which is high value, and you don't have to make too much, but low volume, inherent quality of your living very lazily with nature, but that becomes a story, and that can be scaled up by the government by making lots of model villages like that. How we create lots of model villages, how silk tourism is promoted by the government, how those people who are designers are brought to the villages to absorb the whole thing and make products out of that. I think micro-processing unit, making the roads beautiful for the perishable item to be transported, how they make rural godowns, how they make cold storages, how they make micro-processing centers, packaging, how biodegradable packaging things are developed. So much of things are there. Bamboos are there, jute is there, water hyacinth is there. So how they use it into making very beautiful biodegradable packages, make them into one brand of lots of community enterprises. And I think blend tourism, agro-tourism, and this whole processing unit together, that is what I think government has to play.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Rashmi, we can open it up for any questions.
Any questions from anyone? You want to ask anything? It need not be Northeast centric, it can be around entrepreneurship.
Now, actually, from one question to Rosmi,
Yes.
since you contacted
Can
me
I
first over phone and all
ask?
that, so I appreciate your activities.
Am I
Just
audible?
this is the
Am I audible?
this is
Yes, who is somebody asking a question?
Vijit, are you speaking?
I spoke a little bit. Just
Somebody
I think
wanted-
somebody can ask, no problem.
I think
Let
somebody
him
wanted
ask.
to ask a question.
Yes, I was willing to ask.
Yes, Bhupesh, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Good evening. Special thanks to Shades 30 team for organizing such event. I would like to understand one thing, like what are these entrepreneurs from Northeast doing to connect themselves with the other parts of India?
Okay. What are entrepreneurs doing to connect to other parts of India? So,
Okay.
Samir, would you like
Samir
to
can.
take that?
Yeah. So, see, what we are doing is now we have got lots of even like when I talk about this Green Commando concept or the young people coming. So we have lots of young people from other parts of the country also coming and learning about how to do this compassionate farming, and also we are connected. I have already started a farm in Kumta. Where we are growing again with some technologies which we have, like zero tillage, raised beds, and all, training the farmers there. We are growing even vegetables on the beaches, right? We are also working on that. And the most important thing which we want to connect with other like the other people from the different part of the country is we are a storehouse of lots of immunity building wellness food products. So how we quantify it by growing it, by conserving it in our villages, and how we come together with other entrepreneurs of the country to make it into a product which we can market it together to the whole world. I told you the wellness food industry is growing so much. So much of beautiful herbs and medicinal plants and nutraceutical crops are there in this region in the Northeast. So my aim as an entrepreneur here is to connect with more people from other part of the country and make it like bigger. How our part might be growing it, conserving it, scaling it up, and there might be so much of synergy where entrepreneurs from the other parts can help us in marketing this whole thing to the whole country and also to the world.
All right. Thank you. Any other, Bhupesh, is that, do you have anything else to add? You want to say?
Yeah. Yes. Can I go ahead?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
please.
Yeah, it sounds nice, Samir, like you have been connected to various other entrepreneurs across India. But does this organic farming require a skill set or a training for like say a duration of 30 days or so, or it's just like a go through concept?
Okay. Bhupesh, I think organic farming, when I talk about my form of farming, I call it compassionate. I don't believe in like too much of certified organic product where as a farmer, my religion is to grow food for everyone, which is good. I don't want to grow very high value certified organic food product for only one class of people. So to learn this, yeah, you need the skills. So for me, I'm doing this in like, for example, the Green Commandos have a 3 days farm camping in my food forest, where from morning till evening, we give them the basic of how to take care of the soil, how to plant the seeds, how to conserve the seeds, how to grow it. 3 days is sufficient to know or grow their own garden or their own homestead garden. But if you want to learn it more, yes, you need around 1 month of training on how to develop a land, because every place the land is different. It is not like static; it's dynamic. Everywhere the process is dynamic. So what we do is I invite people. Lots of people from other part of the country also come and do internship with me. They stay with me for 1 month in my forest, and we talk to each other. We know each other's land, and then we devise techniques, and then we go there and then we implement it. Bhupesh, you need, I think you need some training on that. So, and most importantly, farming is something learning from the big book called nature. So when you spend more time with nature, and when you look at the jungle also near your home or in your village, how it grows, how the birds, they cannot digest the seeds and they just litter it and the plants come out. It is regenerative. So nature can make you learn. And from that also, if you have an expert with you also, or you go to a farmer, I learned most of my farming from the farmers, going visiting them, becoming a backpacker, moving around the country, going to very remote farmers, tribal farmers of the Northeast. So if you travel to the farmers, spend time with that, just 1 month after that, you can be a very good farmer, Bhupesh. And you can be a natural farmer rather than an organic farmer.
All right. Thank you, Samir. Anybody else? Are there any other questions?
Rita is adding something. Rita, you
Yeah.
want to share your views?
Rita, you want to say, please?
Okay. With regards to this organic farming, in my place, like as I was telling before, the farmers were under this organic mission. It was called Mission Organic Value Chain Development for Northeast Region under the Ministry of Agriculture. So like as I said, it was in a very bad shape, but then gradually we got organic certificate. The farmers got organic certificate, and it is a 3 long years period where the farmers have to meet certain criteria of getting, keeping the soil organic. A lot of timely visits by the, agencies. Because the government deputes some, they give it to maybe the state government, and the state government again they depute, they give it to the agencies who will give them training, who will give them, all the technical support, everything to get it certificate, to get the certificate to make the soil organic. And in most parts of Northeast region, I would say it's more than organic. It is so like it's just a virgin forest only. But then to show to the world, to present our value to the people outside, we have to authenticate our organic with the certificates. So this is where I stand. I believe in getting the certificate itself, because we do organic, we are natural, we are modern organic, but then let us go for certain criteria, because in terms of like kiwi, what I learned is like the fruit, it has to have certain criteria of having the nutrients that per kiwi fruit is supposed to have. Up to that extent of strictness is there. And even the soil has to have that the soil nutrients are there that have to we have to fulfill the criteria of that having all the nutrients in the soil, and that too organically. So when you want to go organic, we just don't say organic by word, it has to be certified. And then India has got I think we have and in this organic world, not only organic certificate in India, but then we should also aspire for European Union organic certification, and also US, and then Australia. So these are the 3 famous certifying certificates in terms of organic, be it for wine, be it for any food. So different criteria are there. So I think especially Northeast, we should aspire for this the highest standard that the world follows in terms of organic. So, and even if your soil was not into was not under any organic mission, but then you can start. I think there are many private agencies also who do the organic certification. We have to follow certain norms, because when you go like organic certificate, they'll say where's the certificate, and the certificate is so, I mean, it's not easy to obtain. You have to, in my case, like I had to wait. I had to first organize the farmers, help them. I'm not saying I am the one who did it. I'm saying I facilitated the farmers in getting organic certificate by conveying what I have to tell the government or the agencies, telling the truth, because the farmers they are on the farm, they are, they are restricted to the place where they are staying. So it is me who have to be vocal enough and then communicate to the right person. And that is how we obtain the organic organic certificate for kiwi fruit, and this year we got it, and then that the organic certificate for kiwi, this is the first in India. Our district got the first in India, Lower Subansiri district. They got organic certificate, and thereafter now many more, the same agency or under the same mission, under the same like notice that Mission Organic Value Chain, they are again going. I think it's still they're continuing with Mizoram, Nagaland, Manipur, and other places also. This is how like we spread our positivity, our work that way. So, and then based on the fruits being organic, when you make something organic product, it's not just the farmer, the fruit, the soil getting certified. Your product has to be again certified organic. So in my case, it is also the wine which is already a certified organic, because to get the wine organic certificate, you cannot follow the conventional method. You have to have all the ingredients organic, and that is where I looked beyond what others are doing. I have to see why we have the best of the fruit when the fruits are by default organic, and it has come under the government's mission of making it, getting it certified. And when it is certified, and when you make wine out of organic fruit and you process it in organic, then it doesn't make, it doesn't fulfill, my inner, quench for quality or whatever you call it. So I went for, getting the wine organic certificate to an extent of getting all the ingredients, procuring all the required ingredients of certified organic. So that is how even my wine is now stands as organic kiwi wine, the first ever pure and organic kiwi wine in India. So when it comes to organic, let us be very, I think we have to be very strong, because people ask me, is your wine, EU certified? Is your wine US certified or Australia certified? That is what they ask, and I'm going to explore on that also.
All right, that's really great. I think Shivraj, you have a question? You'd like to ask something?
Any other questions we have?
Yes, I think Shivraj wants to ask. Please go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I was listening to this discussion. I am a student of Samir sir only, and it's very nice. Actually, I've attended late, but this is the last discussion that I have been able to follow. And I think sir and Rita ma'am, they are quite they are not different, but they are. I feel that both of the things that they have said is quite like very much interesting. For example, Rita ma'am had said that organic certification is required, although our notice, as she have mentioned, that it's virgin, it's already organic, but still we have to prove it to the world. Right. And that has come to us because we are just following the footsteps of what we are being told by by capitalist countries, or I may say whatever. Like earlier they in 70s they emphasized on this green revolution, and we used all these chemicals and we followed them. Now again they are emphasizing on organic products, so we are again following their footsteps. But one thing that I have learned in all these years is that we can be content, we can be content with our own products. For example, Samir sir also have told that I've learned from him only actually that our products are already chemical free, they are natural, and I think we can promote it in that way also. But yes, that's also limited to some extent. That's why both chemical registration and our belief in our own food, I'm just confused now of what to like go with what. So could there be more discussion on it? Like now I'm really confused.
Actually, this is such a long-winded discussion. There are so many issues. Probably we need to do another session on this, because there are so many states and so many involved. Yeah, Samir, okay.
Yeah, I'd like to add something here. Like for example, Rita was also mentioning, yeah, it's very important that when we export or when we sell it outside, the certificate is so important. Also, it is important that we sustain the local market. So first we sustain the local market, and Northeast now has to have an independent certifying agency. This is something which the government has to look at, like how it is made, like all the third party certifications which are being done. So for the small farmers, sometimes it becomes very costly, or like even Bhupesh was like mentioning on the chat box, like 3 years and again the process. So our farmers they feel sometimes. So there's a very beautiful thing by the government, which is called participatory guarantee system, PGS. But how they implement it, how they do it more better, how like independent certifying agency for the Northeast has to be established, and how it is made more easy for the farmers so that they can certify and they can send it. So lots of products now has been exported outside. Like for example, recently Assam lemon and the Burmese plum. Those are very local food products which has been exported by the government of Assam in very recent time. But what I think is sustainability is very important. Like for example, my way of doing is first we have to make it available for the local market. We get certified and everything is done. Then we go for the export and all. Because once what happens with our Northeast products, I have dealt with lots of buyers outside also. What they ask me is, okay, we have come in contract with, for example, tea. We have come in contract with the farmer for 3,000 kgs per year, but he could end up giving me only 1,500 kg. So I think market is not a problem, Urvashi. Sustaining the market is the biggest problem. So if we sustain the local market with the brand of naturally organic, and in the process we have a very local Northeast certifying agency which can certify this product very easily, which becomes easy for the farmers and they can take it to the whole market.
Right. Thank you, Samir. I think we should wind up now because we are already past our time limit. So
any other questions? I think, yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I think it's been a very interesting discussion and so many issues that we have tried to address, that our panelists have tried to address. And of course, lots of challenges do remain. But I think Samir and Rita and Bijit have kind of carved a path that others can follow. So I would really like to thank our panelists today for taking out time and joining us. And I'd like to thank everyone who participated in the discussion. And I think maybe we can organize another discussion on, on this, maybe later, some other time.
Sure. After this, this thing, I think many people would want to connect with Samir, Bijit, and Rita.
Yes.
Are you people open to being introduced to people?
Yeah, Rita has shared her number. Rita
I can also share my number.
Samir and Bijit, if you would like to share numbers.
Yeah, myself is open to all that. So we have an organization to tell about organic knowledge, internet knowledge.
That'll be great.
So I'm really open because we are doing business. The business should be shared with each other, and we must know each other. Then only it will grow.
I have shared my number and the email ID. We are open to that. And I would also like to thank 30 States, Urvashi and Rasmi, and also it was very nice speaking together with Rita. Rita, I came to know you from this, and you are doing so beautiful work. Bijit, though, I know through Peggy. Peggy used to talk lots about you. I see lots of friends like Sivraj, he was with me working. Rajiv ji is their senior member who always supports and follows. So thank you for bringing us here, Urvashi and Rasmi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Can I say just one more? I mean,
yes,
half a minute. See, Shivraj was asking like he also wants to start some fermented kind of thing. So here I want to explain that Assam has a policy called Heritage Wine Policy. So when I started my work, like I was informed that Assam is, because I came to know through one government official in Assam that Assam is going to frame Assam Heritage Drink Policy. So this policy, I'm sure it is there. Please follow up, and then you'll get lots of idea. And I'm sure it's very similar to the Arunachal Pradesh state wine policy that we have in our place. So look up for that policy, read properly, and then meet people, and then go ahead with your idea. All the best.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Rita.
Thank you.
And thank you to all our panelists. And all we can say is more power to the Northeast. And thank you for everyone who joined us today. All right. Goodbye. We'll see you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, 30 States. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.